Hey guys and gals, short one on obsessive compulsive disorder, just like I promised on the Facebook page. I try to cover this and I'm going to try to cover it quick. I've got all my scrubs on to start working on the countertop, so we'll get this out there and hopefully we can help somebody. Um, One of a decent way to describe obsessive compulsive disorder is unwanted thoughts and fears, which leads to repetitive behaviors. And how does that present itself? OCD, depression, anxiety, allergic type reactions, PME, headaches, itching, etc. Dr. Pfeiffer, back in the 1950s, he did a lot of work on this kind of thing as far as mental health issues and stuff like that, and he believed very strongly it was poor to low methylation, which basically in essence means high histamine, histidilia. We've talked about that for many years. Any of you guys have been following me in my notes. I believe that like fungal disease, the vast majority of allergic type actions or just things that come out of nowhere tend to be histamine mast cell issues. For you guys that have watched my videos for 10 years or more, you'll see that some of the first videos I addressed were arrhythmia, flutters, PVCs, things of the heart. And you're going to find, I believe, at least you should look into it a great deal and research it, is you'll find that much of that has to do with, let's say, aspartame, excitotoxins, and neurotoxins as far as the intakes, but also the deficiencies of magnesium, things like that. But you're going to also find that having high histamine is a huge effect on those things. And a couple of the things that I'll have to suggest here will greatly help with that. So we'll get right into that. B vitamins are critical. B6, which is well known for a antihistamine, if you use that on the histamine intolerance type diet and supplementation. Methionine is another one. Quercetin is another one. B3 is huge. B3 is niacin. We've talked about that many times. Inositol hex is one of those types. Hexanicotinate. That's one of the types that you can use with niacin that doesn't have the flush, yet it has all the benefits of niacin with flush, which is pretty huge. Dr. Abram Hoffer wrote the book basically on niacin, and still to this day, that was many decades ago, still to this day that the work that he performed is as pertinent as ever. So B vitamins across the board, complex B, B50 to B100, to me, every adult should be taking every day. Of course, it's great to get that, and you should get that in whole foods. I always suggest that. Nutritional yeast is a fantastic way to get that, along with your amino acids and other things. Eggs and stuff like that, that's the way I love to do it. But when you got a supplement, that's a great way to do it, is get a good complex B50 at least. Dr. Yobius, MD, he used tryptophan and vitamin C, and we've talked about tryptophan before too. Tryptophan is incredibly safe. We've gone over that, about the basic lies about tryptophan. There was a bad batch that came out of Japan decades ago, and they outlawed basically all of tryptophan for that reason. And then what do you know, within a day or two, they put Xanax, a billion-dollar drug, on the board. And we can't, there's no telling how many people that's done damage to. Tryptophan is incredibly safe, and they've brought it back on the market where you can get that at quality places like Swanson's, Piping Rock, whatever. I don't care where you buy it. Tryptophan is a very effective thing that you should research. And if you have mental health issues, this is a great thing to consider. So, but we're talking about OCD here in particular, and ADHD a little bit towards the end. So anyway, he used the tryptophan and vitamin C along with B6, which is the antihistamine, to stabilize OCD in patients all within 6 months. And another one, better yet, an Israeli study used inositol hexanicotinate, one of my favorites, one I take every day, that niacin, and they affected the OCD patients 100% all within 6 weeks. That's pretty huge. So there are things that a person can do directly and safely. And of course, always talk to your doctor, but most of your doctors just aren't educated in this. They're all about selling therapies, expensive therapies and drugs. And if that's your thing, go ahead. But if things haven't been effective and you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got, then maybe it's time for a change. So I am going to suggest here, and as you guys know, as far as the B3 and the niacin, Hoffer again did wonderful things on schizophrenia way back when. And even more so when you talk about post-traumatic stress. Many of the people that were captured in World War II by the Japanese, they used simple niacin alone to eliminate much of that post-traumatic stress disorder. To me, all of our great soldiers and many people, it doesn't have to be soldiers, I've had post-traumatic stress from many people dying of the disease I have that are close to me. That's stressful. But I've learned to deal with that very well, and be thankful for that. And proper supplementation and nutrition are critical in dealing with any of that. So as far as supplementations, just a couple of suggestions that I would strongly consider. So if somebody said to me, Todd, what would you do? Well, I'll tell you what I would do, because I've suffered from bipolar and all these chemical imbalances. What's a chemical imbalance? A shortage of a drug from a pharmaceutical? No, it's probably a shortage of a ability to produce a chemical that your body naturally does, whether that's toxification or whether that's lack of nutrition. Those are things that are up to you, the things I try to help to serve you with, is to educate you a little bit so you know where to look to consider getting some of these things that you're likely deficient in. We always talk about Lugol's iodine. That's why I sell it, because to me it's one of the most powerful, beautiful things that are available there, and we know 96% of you guys are deficient in it. Yes, you should always get a loading test done and check that out for yourself, but these are things that are hugely effective on all kinds of mental health issues. Again, back to the Lugol's iodine, we know that the World Health Organization to this day says that Lugol's iodine, or iodine in general, is the #1 cause, the deficiency thereof is the #1 cause of mental retardation worldwide. So anyway, on that list of OCD and ADHD, and you'll find as far as ADHD, when you see some of the studies that I've seen, mothers that are highly iodine deficient in children, newborns, you'll find that ADHD just skyrockets. And when they have proper amounts of iodine and stuff like that, ADHD is almost non-existent. That's why, in my view, if I could, every school in America would have to have, every child in the school in America would have to have a drop of iodine, because they need it. Their body critically need it. It's not the same as vaccines and stuff like that, where there's all kinds of different debate. This is something that your body, without argument, crucially needs, and 96% of the populations are deficient. So Lugol's iodine, critical. Full spectrum vitamin C, critical. B6, B3, which is the niacin, just in general, a good B100 or B50, like I said, along with inositol hexanictinate on top of that, would be what I would do. Magnesium glycinate, which is very important as far as relaxation and anxiety and depression and things like that for OCD, depression, ADHD. That's very inexpensive. Get a good quality one like magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate and give that a whirl. And tryptophan, strongly consider that tryptophan. You go ahead and look for your contraindications on tryptophan and any of these other things if you happen to be on particular drugs right now. But there are ways that you can learn how to wean yourself off of those. As you guys remember, 20 years ago, I was on whatever it was, 7 or 8 drugs that I was supposed to be on for the rest of my life, for mental health issues, for heart issues and stuff like that. And within 3 months of mega juicing and cutting all the processed stuff, I didn't need any of it anymore. And most of the things I suffered were eliminated quite shortly. So that's it. That's the short note on the OCD and other health issues that you've got to know that you have that power in your hands, but you have to take action. You got to do your research. You got to find a good doctor, hopefully a naturopathic bend to them, that they understand how those things can work orthodoxically and naturally together, and get it going. Okay, thanks. See ya.